coming back to you for details on it. All right, I believe Congress MP Manish Tiwari has given a notice for a joint parliamentary committee into the Adani row. Let's go over very quickly to my colleague Pallavi for more context on this entire story. Pallavi, what's particularly interesting is that earlier the Congress was very clear that they wanted to demand a JPC probe. I believe it was the Trinamool Congress and the left that disagreed. They were arguing for a Supreme Court monitored probe. At some point, it seemed as if the opposition had come together. They'd agreed they were going to demand both. Now, Manish Tiwari putting forward this notice. Could you bring us more context?
Yes, in fact, Manish Tiwari was one of the first Congress leaders, and today the Congress party is also backing the idea of a joint parliamentary committee probe into this entire, the Hindenburg report and into the Adani issue. You're right, Mahua Moitro was the one who tweeted out to say that we must have an investigation, and it's only possible to be free, fair and impartial if you do it under the retired Supreme Court judge. Because see, the fact is that even it's being done earlier, for example, in the 2G scam or whether it's in the Augusta Western scheme, they actually ended up giving a clean sheet to a Dr. Manmohan Singh government. So Trinamool Congress is very cynical about a JPC because they feel it always helps the party in power at the center, and it's never ever going to be non-partisan or impartial. So that's once again the difference as far as the strategy and tactic is concerned.
Okay. All right, Pallavi, I'd like to thank you for bringing us those details. My colleague Arunima is also with us. Let's go over to her right now for the overall story. Arunima, what we haven't touched on right now is the government's response and the government's plan. And I just want to understand from you there, can we at all expect, at least what are your sources telling you, can we at all expect a statement from the finance minister touching on this?
The Prime Minister is expected to respond, when the motion of thanks is discussed. And that is what the opposition members who prefer a discussion led by Congress, led by TMC, what they prefer is to ask sharp questions. Their viewpoint is that just disruption is not helping matters. And the government, you heard Parliamentary Affairs Minister also from the floor of the House say this and then on Twitter also attack Jairam Ramesh. So the government is constantly trying to make this point that by disrupting Parliament, by not allowing the House to function, you're just wasting public money. You claim to be representative of people who want to ask questions on behalf of people to the government, but you don't allow question hour to function, you don't allow 0 hour to function, you're not even allowing parampara is what the Parliamentary Affairs Minister referred to it as, the parampara of thanking the President for the joint session to Parliament. Even that is not being allowed. So the Prime Minister's speech, that's what we are told, that he could respond if the motion of thanks discussion begins, and he could answer all those questions politically that are being put to him by the opposition, all the accusations of crony capitalism, the charge that Congress party has made even this morning, that it is the government which is not allowing House to function because they want to quote-unquote save their friend. So at the highest level of the government, they are prepared to tackle these allegations, these accusations, but the impasse continues. We are hoping it will be broken today.
I want to understand from you, Arunima, because we've seen how the markets have responded to these revelations. Yesterday in particular, I know that the markets opened flat, but they were in red just a few minutes after. Obviously, the government is trying to be very careful in how they respond. Do we have any indications on how they plan to address this?
What they've said so far is that the market is independent of government intervention. There is SEBI, there is that regulator which is tasked with intervention. They've also said that if you have concerns about, and this is what opposition has been underlining, that our concern is not just about a corporate entity or the market. Our concern is also about government entities like SBI and LIC, which are custodians of public money. Are they being arm twisted, being forced to invest in this corporate? That is our concern, whether due diligence is being followed or not. The government's standpoint has been that we are not intervening. The intervention, the clarification is coming from SEBI, from RBI, from SBI, from LIC, and their exposure as per their own CMDs is within limits. But we can also see how the Adani Group itself, by the prepayment of the loan, which was due in 2024, that prepayment is also in a way to boost investors' confidence. Overall, the Adani Group too is taking steps to ensure that the market, which is completely spooked, investor confidence, which is down to the dump at the moment, those are restored. And if the market in the next couple of hours, or when it opens today, or in the next few days stabilizes, I think that will also give the political critique of what the Hindenburg report has suggested, or the allegation of crony capitalism that have been made. There could be some elbow room to take on those critiques as well.
Okay, Arunima, just stay with us. We were talking a little while earlier about what senior Congress leader Jairam Ramesh had to say. We have that reaction for you. Take a look. We'll return to Arunima right after.
राज्यों में प्रदर्शन हुआ LIC ऑफिस के सामने, SBI ऑफिस के सामने। ये जो अडानी का मेगा घोटाला है और जो प्रधानमंत्री प्रयास कर रहे हैं इसको छुपाने में, इस पर पार्लियामेंट में बहस होना नहीं देना चाहते हैं। हमारे नेता प्रतिपक्ष खड़गे जी को मौका ही नहीं मिल रहा है कि हम चाहते हैं कि इस पर JPC हो, जांच हो, निष्पक्ष जांच हो। सरकार इस पर हमें कुछ कहने के लिए भी हमें मौका नहीं दे रही है और 3 दिन से पार्लियामेंट नहीं चल पाया।
Okay, let's go back to Arunima now for more questions. Arunima, a little bit of a rudimentary question for you here. Could you tell us what the advantages of a joint parliamentary committee versus a Supreme Court probe, which some parties are also asking for? What are the advantages of both? Could you also tell us how likely either are, historically speaking?
JPC is essentially a room for the opposition to embarrass the government. A joint parliamentary committee chairmanship usually is with the opposition. There are members of all political parties there. And ultimately, whether the JPC's recommendation is accepted or not accepted is decided by the chair, in this case, the speaker. And since the speaker usually is from the ruling side, there is very little chance that if there are any critical observations, recommendations made by the opposition, even at the JPC platform, it may not necessarily find favor with the speaker. However, the JPC does have the power to summon anyone who is a stakeholder. In this case, if a JPC is formed, if the JPC members want to summon the finance ministry officials or the SEBI officials or officials, the top leadership of LIC or SBI, even the corporates here, they have the power to do so, and they are oath bound to come and share the correct picture. So those information, when it is presented at the Joint Parliamentary Committee, the opposition often uses that information to embarrass the government, and that's the kind of embarrassment the government usually wants to avoid. We saw the last time when the 2G scam was on and the UPA government was under tremendous pressure. Then in opposition, Bharatiya Janata Party leaders used the JPC to really arm twist the government, making allegations of corruption, and we saw how that ultimately panned out as far as people's perception of UPA and corruption is concerned. Having said that, now I think from even though Manish Tiwari has still demanded JPC, the fact remains that they're now willing to even discuss or take into account whatever the allegations are on the floor of the House, put them on record. Will that take away from this team once the discussion happens on motion of thanks? The Prime Minister responds. He will perhaps come closer to the end of the first half of the budget session. So then by the time the Parliament reassembles for the second half of the budget session, will this team continue? Will it give government and the Adani Group a little more elbow room? That we have to wait and see. But I do want to underline before I hand it over that when the Prime Minister responds, be prepared for some political fireworks as well. You heard him yesterday at the HAL, the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited helicopter wing, when he was inaugurated. He made that reference that how government was trying to be embarrassed. The opposition led by Rahul Gandhi made such a hue and cry about Rafale, said that, PSUs are suffering, and Rahul Gandhi had made a reference to HAL then. So the Prime Minister hit back yesterday saying all the charges that you made against our government have been proved incorrect. That kind of hitting back is expected when the Prime Minister responds to the motion of thanks as well.
Arunima, thank you so much.